Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It's a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazzi here Monday morning with Chris Anderson to take some questions, offer some answers about West Virginia sports. And Chris, today the sports are not just football and basketball. Heck, there might not even be a football and basketball question for a while because seam heads everywhere. It's a baseball school now. Chris, the team with the fewest losses and the greatest winning percentage in the country plays in Morgantown, West Virginia. Um, Team that might not host a regional plays in Morgantown, West Virginia. Team that has not been ranked despite some accomplishments is in Morgantown.
Nope.
30
Wait,
and
wait.
4.
Breaking news.
Oh
Breaking
yeah.
news. As
Okay.
we're recording this, literally 2 minutes ago, finally, D1 baseball has put West Virginia University in their top 25. Matt, would you like to take a guess or have you already seen it?
21.
24. So,
Love it. Love it.
oof.
So
And you've seen some of the other rankings. They've had them as high as I think like 12. Like a lot of other top 25 rankings have them much higher and have been in their top 25 rankings for weeks.
mm.
The boys over at D1 baseball not only not putting him in there, but this past week going on the road, if you will, like I mean, podcasting, spending multiple articles, multiple podcasts talking about how West Virginia isn't ranked, shouldn't be ranked, why they're not ranked, but get another series win, big week. Guess you got to rank them.
I am. I'm one of those guys who doesn't really get too fired up about rankings at a certain point of the season. And like if you're like 27 versus 24, what does it really matter? Like I don't get that stuff a lot of times. This one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because by every metric, they're one of the top programs in the country right now. One of the top teams in the country right now. It just didn't make sense. I don't know. And all I had to do was keep winning for a while, and they kept winning. 30 and 4, first place in the Big 12. How does that team not have a ranking? Well, not have to worry about that anymore. So much for that question. As you can imagine, there are lots of curiosity about a lot of things happening with the Mountaineers, all the sports that we'll talk about. Kind of a busy time, but it is a big one for a big moment, I think, for baseball, Chris, is because kind of the stuff that's happening in football and basketball, either you don't like it or it's just not your favorite thing to follow. Baseball has games going on, and I just think it's a cool reminder that programs can still exist and succeed, and you can actually have fun watching a game and following a team and getting mad about not being ranked again. So that's pretty good. It's been a while since that's been the conversation. It feels like because everything is going such a different direction legally, rosters, transactions, money, all that stuff. Baseball was just out there smacking the ball around, shutting teams out for 7 innings of starters you haven't seen on the mound before. Kind of a fun story so far. So yeah, let's do some baseball. Let's do a lot of questions, and let's remind everybody, subscribers ask questions. Chris and I do the best we can to answer whatever we don't get to today. Chris kind of follows up, puts in a written form, and that's it for me. Let's get into the questions.
Uh, Not seven of the nine most upvoted questions, double-digit upvotes related to baseball. Some of them some smart aleck questions about getting a little more coverage for the team that is doing as well as they are. Some a little more specific. We'll get to those more specific ones in a second, but I want to talk more about this not being ranked, where West Virginia is seen um, and viewed and ranked. As far as a program goes this season, when they are 30 and 4, they have only lost one series, right? Arizona, that's it.
Mhm. And that had a 16 inning game in it too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and if you go back and look at that 16 inning game, I don't know how many people actually watched that game, but West Virginia had about 8 chances to win that game,
Mhm.
and Arizona had like one or two. Like, I mean, if you play that game, I mean, I know West Virginia tied the game in the bottom of the ninth, but say if I believe it was the King that got the hit, they scored the tying run, and if he had gotten in a rundown instead, maybe they get that other run in and they win in the bottom of the ninth. And then I think in the 10th, 12th, 13th, 15th, like West Virginia had runners in scoring position with fewer than two outs, just couldn't convert. Um, it was a very frustrating game. And it's like, is that one little thing right there is that what's keeping them from being ranked? It's kind of wild. But
Mhm.
I look at some other metrics, and one thing that sticks out to me is road games played and record. I mean, 18 and 1 on the road is insane. I don't care what your schedule is, but also the fact that they've played 19 road games go look at some of these teams. I don't know who else is like, whoever's listening or whoever's ranking here. A lot of these teams that are ranked much, much higher, like Arkansas, number one in the country, they played 9 road games. That's it. Tennessee, 9. Auburn, 8. Clemson, 7.
Hmm.
They've only gone on the road 7 games. West Virginia's done it 19 times. And we're going to talk about strength of schedule. Um, and most of these strength of schedule arguments are not even related to quad one games. West Virginia's 4-3 in quad one games. That's better than like say TCU, who I don't think they were ranked either. I think they're getting dinged, but they're 2-2. TCU's only played 4 quad one games. West Virginia's played 7. Some of these other teams, Coastal Carolina, they're 2-5. They've only played 7 quad one games, and they're 2-5 in them. West Virginia's 4-3. It's just that West Virginia hasn't played a bunch of quad two games, which is what some of these other teams that are ranked much higher than them have done. Which I don't know. Mike, do you remember like a bunch of arguments in college basketball about quad two wins instead of quad? I thought the arguments were quad one success,
Yeah. Thank goodness
unless
we
you were
don't.
UNC, of course.
Yeah, thank goodness we don't have quad 1A, quad 1B in baseball. That's kind of disorienting here. What you're talking about is kind of where I go on this, Chris, where it didn't add up. Like you can't make a very strong argument for it. There's a stat out there I forget, but of the top, and I forgive me if I don't have the numbers correctly here, because again we don't cover college baseball, Chris. But of the top, I forget 40 RPI teams, um, West Virginia was I think in the top one, two, three in quad 3, 4 games and wins. All right, that's a good reason not to rank him. Chris, you know who else is up there in quad 3/4 wins? Arkansas, who happens to be number one. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. West Virginia, fewest home games in that top whatever group. The number I don't have specifically, but remember these things 12-3, so 15 home games. That's a disadvantage. And granted, that's something like that happens in the Northeast and it can be a problem. Teams that have played more or fewer home games, like you're talking like Xavier, BYU, those are teams that have played more road games too. They haven't done as well. So West Virginia, geographically, weather, climate, all that stuff, in a disadvantage, but has done better than a number of other teams have. And yeah, the road game thing is wild. Like 19, I think the next closest team to West Virginia in that top 40 group was maybe like Troy or something like that. Like a team that's going to have to go on the road to play baseball games at the start of the season. West Virginia does because of, again, weather, right? It's hard. But to win 18 of the 19, that's that's a huge leg up too. So I think the negative is that yeah, just quad 7-1 in 2 games. Excuse me, just 7 quad 1 in 2 games. I think 3 of their 4 losses are in quad one. None of those games are embarrassing though. If you watched and followed it or whatever. Like I said, the extra inning game against Arizona. Chris, would you make them like a top 15 team based on just that? I'd have a hard time doing that too if you're going to argue so strongly against it. They just kind of felt like an outlier for so long, but also why they were in the super regional last year. They've been successful for a while. They've done this for this pattern of road games, quality midweek record, right? Maybe not the best SOS, but they've won those games just because their scheduling philosophy. They're playing teams that can play midweek games that maybe aren't the best, but they've done this over and over and over, and they've been a good team. So just a hard thing for me to understand and accept why you could hold the pass like above West Virginia if you're observing it, like you're trying to look through their past couple of years to see what they're doing. Doesn't make sense, doesn't line up, does it even up? How do they not get the benefit of the doubt? And maybe you don't have to worry about that so much anymore. Maybe 30-4 and leading the country in this and this. And again, one of the greater offensive pitching balances out there. Again, like a top 20 team in ERA and runs per game. That's pretty rare. Maybe you don't have to worry about that anymore. Maybe they just have to keep winning games because they got themselves in the rankings and you're not going to slip out now as long as you keep winning.
Mike, did you know that West Virginia has the same record on the road as Arkansas has against quad four opponents?
Is that so?
18-1.
Great.
18-1. Arkansas has played 19 games against quad four, and they have a loss in there. Um, okay, sure, whatever. Just uh,
Hard to understand.
it's really strange looking at some of this stuff. Like just looking at the quad ones, it's like how is West Virginia's strength of schedule so low when some of these other teams are playing 15, 18, 20 games against quad four opponents with losses in them? and West Virginia is so much lower than them. I don't know.
They might get some help. Kennesaw State looked like a good team when they were here. They're right on the verge of quad one now. Like they're two-ish, they're high twos, but if they continue to improve, that could be a quad one series, and that would help that column for them, and it probably would help their strength of schedule, their non-conference strength of schedule, especially. There's a lot that can happen around them too, so that's good. And then more importantly, like who they're about to play, that's going to do them the most favors.
Well, let's talk about that because that's going to be related to one of the questions here. This one from Ears for Life. What does the baseball team need to accomplish to move up enough to host a regional?
Wins, right?
Yeah. And
They're
like you said, a little bit better opponents moving forward. Maybe that
yeah.
helps out too.
Cincinnati is in Morgantown for 3 games this weekend. That is 64 in the RPI. It's a good program, and there's obviously the backstory there with Steve Saban's being on the top of the list there at Cincinnati, yet he ends up at West Virginia. UCF is not great. Texas Tech is, I think, like a top 100 this year. I actually think UCF is below or is above Texas Tech in the RPI, which is kind of a surprise, but I think it'll be tricky to go to UCF. Just think that's going to be a tough one. Texas Tech's in Morgantown, but they're always good. Then things get really tricky, Chris. Like they're back-to-back series to end the season at Kansas State against Kansas. Those are both going to be top 35-ish RPI teams. That's your final 6 games of the regular season. A whole lot could be on the line there when it comes to the conference championship, certainly conference tournament seeding. If they take 5 of 6 of those games, I mean, they sweep two, forget about it. But like they they can really ready themselves, help themselves by just staying above water, winning 2 out of 3, sweeping one or both. And this is bold talk, I understand, but this is kind of the game right now. If you're trying to get into a regional, they'd have to do a big number against UCF and Texas Tech, just because, especially at home, you don't want to lose home games and you don't want to like drop a series because your momentum is going forward now, as we've explained. And if they do that and they take care of those 2 games and they keep themselves so far above any sort of level of distress, well, then they're house money, Chris, when it comes to Kansas State and Kansas, at Kansas State and against Kansas, with everything on the table right there. I mean, they would be playing for a top 16 seed, perhaps. That's where things get very interesting. Right now, their RPI is 22. And again, if you're looking at who they're playing here, let's see. Marshall, that's going to hurt. Cincinnati 64 for 3 games. Penn State 92, 1 game. UCF 81, 3 games. Marshall 155. Texas Tech 91. So Texas Tech is below UCF, 3 games. Pitt 52. And then again, the back-to-back series. If they just take care of these next couple of weeks, those last 2 series are extremely meaningful. So it sounds cliche, but it's very easy. You just have to keep winning right now. Don't lose series. Go 2-1 every weekend. You'll be fine. Go 3-0 if you can. Try not to stub your toe, especially against the Marshall in the midweek games. And maybe we could talk about this too. Maybe you got to be kind of serious about your starters for the midweek games and not so exploratory, especially this part of the season. And then make sure everything is online to be at your best those final 2 series.
Quick math off the top of my head here as we were talking. You're running through the numbers. I believe it's 4 quad 1 games as things stand now. Obviously, some shifting can happen depending on how teams do moving forward. I believe those 4 would be at Pitt and then the 3 games at Kansas State. 3 quad 2 games, maybe 4, 3 of them. The Kansas series would be quad 2 as it stands now. And then quad 3, that's UCF, that's Texas Tech, that's uh Penn State. Did you say Penn State was in the 90s as well and or 80s? So and then yeah, of course Marshall's no, that Marshall quad 3. You said 155 and that's a no an away game. So there you go.
Mhm.
Um no quad 4s, I don't believe, out of the things we just rattled off there. So some potential movement up, some tough series, some tough games that might help boost their resume. You're right. And I agree. You can't I do think you need to take a more and again they've won these midweek games
Yeah.
with the experimentation going on, obviously, with their record. But for both ends of the spectrum here, you really don't want to lose those midweek games because they're either a really good win, like Pitt, 'cause that would be a quad 1 win, an away game against you said 52, right?
Mhm.
That's a quad 1 win if you can get it. And then Marshall so bad that you don't want that bad loss either. So you kind of need to make sure you get those midweek wins no matter what.
A lot of strategy involved with how they're going to shape their pitching staff, and we might actually see that moving already.
Well, and I was gonna say that was one of the next questions. We're gonna pull this up. BJH0017, does Cartsonis take a starting spot after today? I'm talking about Sunday. How about Meyer? Mayer. Thoughts? Cartsonis had been coming in relief, couple innings here, couple innings there. Goes 7 on Sunday. 2 hits, no runs, 5 strikeouts. Pretty solid day. Um, for a team that they obviously have pitching, but they're not really relying on one guy to kind of go 5, 7, 6, 7 innings every single game. They're not doing that. That's not what this pitching staff is. It's not what this pitching staff was made for. I still remember one of the very first podcasts, contrary to popular belief, we talked about baseball before today in our season preview, and we talked about the pitching staff, and we said, why does it have to be 4 guys that go 7 innings? We talked a lot about, hey, a guy that's a starter instead of a close, a closer as a starter, going 1, 2, 3 innings and getting things going and doing bullpen cut by committee. Um, is Cartsonis going to be one of those 6, 7 inning guys moving forward, or are we going to go back to the couple innings at a time thing?
Pretty interesting story here. Like he's big, he's got the arm. He's like 6'4", 220. He's a senior. He's pitched a bunch in his career, and he's been a starter. Lost the 2022 season to injury, and then did some starting, but even for West Virginia was just exclusively reliever. So, but he played well at Kent State when he pitched, and he pitched well. Um, I wonder what the plan was here. They were excited when they got him because they thought that he had something that could fit, and it would take some time to find it. And maybe they did, but it's not like they're running him out there for 4 innings every time he threw, or that they were throwing him a bunch. Chris, he had 11 appearances and 17 and a third innings before 7 innings. And again, like he was getting stretched out, he pitched like 2.1 and 3.1 innings in his prior 2 games. So he's getting like 7 outs, 10 outs. Different now, but he was hitting mid 90s again in the late innings there. 7 innings kept him under 100 pitches. The offense did its job to make sure that he wasn't really stressed. I don't know why you would take the ball from him now, because now you got a Friday starter in Griffin Kern, and you got a Sunday starter in him. He probably has the arm where he can go and take some damage and try to get through on a Sunday without having to flip it to the bullpen. A guy who can only give you 3 innings because he's given up 3 runs, and you're kind of worried. That happens on a Sunday, but you're also worried about what type of arms you have in your bullpen on a Sunday. So that might be their name. We've seen Carson Estridge. We've seen some other ideas. We've seen some midweek starters. I don't know. Estridge has been so good in a bullpen role in the past that maybe that's his thing. Maybe he's a guy that can come in and get you a couple innings. He could finish a game with, getting you 9 outs, 12 outs, something along those lines. Meyer's been electric when he's been around the strike zone. He's been really good. Those are two great things to have. And those guys have been bullpen guys. And some people are just wired differently. They like to come in out of the bullpen. They like to come in when the fire is hot. Don't know. Those are good questions to ask. But Cartsonis is certainly going to be a question to keep in the top of our minds right now. He's got that arm, he's got that potential, he has that experience, and if this was part of the plan, that was a pretty great debut for him. And then other pieces can fall into place because you're going to keep two pretty good arms that are bullpen experienced in bullpen roles, and they can come in and just do their thing. And what's good about this, Chris, is their Friday starter's been so good, Griffin Kern. If things do go sideways with Van Kempen on Friday, excuse me, on Saturday, if you've already won the first game, you can do everything you can with your best starters and your best relievers combined on Saturday. So Van Campen has it, doesn't have it, whatever. He gets you out of the fourth inning, and it's just, I don't know, it's 4-1 West Virginia. Then throw your two good bullpen arms or one of your two good bullpen arms and go and try to see if you can stretch it out. And then you come back with kind of this curious case of Jack Cartsonis and maybe one other good bullpen arm. But this kind of gives you two arms and two ways to make sure you take the Saturday game and win the series on Saturday if you have a chance. Or if you lose Friday, you don't get the 0-2 start in the weekend. You try to get back even on Saturday because you have those arms in the bullpen.
Yeah, the big thing with Cartsonis is he has swing and miss stuff and
Mhm.
had it when he was coming out of the bullpen. Your point earlier about some guys come in fired up, some guys come in, and you see it with these guys. They come in, they can hum it 95, 96, 97, whatever, and they have that energy for short bursts, for an inning, for 5 outs, whatever it is. This is the first time in a long time that Cartsonis, when he went 7 innings, he struck out 5. That's not bad. That's
Mhm.
not bad. But prior to this game, he was averaging almost 2 strikeouts per inning. So like the inverse of whatever happened on Sunday. Yes, he went 7 innings, didn't give up a run, but there were a lot more balls put into play than there had been in his previous outing. So some of the stuff that made him such a good pitcher as a reliever was that swing and miss stuff. I wonder if he maybe didn't have kind of the stamina. I mean, he went 7 innings, so he did. But did he have the stamina to take that fastball from a 93 to a 96, a 94 to a 97, like he did when he's in relief, knowing that he's got to be out there for 5, 6, 7 innings. So he took a little bit off, maybe his off speed stuff. It wasn't quite breaking as hard because that was something I noticed about that game on Sunday, that it just wasn't quite swing and miss like it was before. Granted, again, you'll take any coach will tell you take 7 innings with no runs any day of the week. But a lot more balls are put in play, and when more balls put in play, bad things can happen, hits more likely, et cetera. So it doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
Got 12 ground ball outs.
Yeah.
Always good in college baseball. I think he only struck out five, but maybe he knew how to pitch around that and through that. Career high number of pitches for him. He'd only ever been over 80 a couple of times. Most innings pitched was eight back in 2023, and I think before that, maybe he had one. Or before or after that, he had only had one other outing that went beyond six. So kind of rare air for him. Do you definitely run him back again on Sunday and see what happens. But do you expect 7 innings and 97 pitches every time? Probably not. And Houston is a good team to break in against. But listen, development, this is something to watch. They really needed to do something to their pitching has been fine. Like in America, their pitching has been fine. You certainly worry about the depth of starters and relievers when you get into tournament play, and that's an old story for West Virginia and a lot of college baseball teams. Now you feel a little bit better about it because you still have good bullpen arms, but you've also supplemented your starting staff by taking another good bullpen arm.
All right, let's take a minute. I don't think there was a question about this, but obviously questions about the baseball team. Hitting. We talked about pitching and great. 10 players, 10 with a batting average over 300. 10 guys that have played significant time, that have seen, what do I put on at bats here, minimum here? Well, it's only 67, but a good number of at bats, 10 of them batting over 300. No real weaknesses in this lineup, which I think is different than in years past. There has been times where it's gotten to a certain point and it was like, well, might be a couple outs here, a couple outs there. This year, not quite as much. Yeah, of course, there's some stronger spots in the order, but is this as deep of an offense as you can remember for WV baseball in recent years?
I mean, you want to say yeah, but let me say if I can't think. I honestly
Yeah, I
can't
want
think
to
of
put.
one that was as even through the lineup as it seems to be.
Yeah,
There are some years that I mean, Van Zandt had some like
yeah.
lineups that could really hit too, believe it or not. Like one year in particular, everybody hit the ball. But even like nothing pops off. They've had pros, obviously, but this one just seems like it's different. And you've never seen these numbers, Chris. Like they're 15th in the nation in batting average. They bat 320 as a team. They're 45th in doubles. They get on base a lot. They're number 29, I think, in on base percentage. Let me see, 21 in runs, 20 in hits, like top 20 numbers, top 30 numbers. And you're talking about 300 teams that play baseball. So a top 10% offense right now by a lot of metrics. And again, to get on base, to hit, and to score runs, that's the name of the game. Like your most important stat is runs. You got to get on, whether you hit or walk. They get walks a lot. You don't see a lot of the, station baseball where you get a single, you steal second, you butt them over to third, and you hit a sac fly because they can hit the ball into the gaps and over the fence. They don't have a lot of home run power. They're probably in the middle of the country in that, but again, a lot of doubles, and they string together hits. They string together reaching base. Like you'll see out of a one out situation, all of a sudden the runs in, there's a runner on first and third because a double, a single, and a walk, something like that happens. Then they can get that pretty quickly because they're not waiting for the lineup to turn over. And even some of the spots in the lineup that you think might be soft, a player you've seen for a couple of years who misses pitches and strikes out a lot. Well, he hits the ball now and he hits it hard. A freshman who's playing different positions. That might not be something that profiles, but you've got Gavin Kelly, catcher, second base, DH, outfield, bottom of the lineup, but getting on base and getting important hits. Those typical spots in a college lineup where somebody different may play right field or left field or one position, whatever. you might see somebody different every day of the weekend or 2 days in the weekend. They still get something out of those spots, and those are not breaks for pitching staff. Those are challenges from 1 through 9. And when you think you're out of the woods, the lineup's turned over again. Or when you think you're out of the woods, you're at the bottom of the lineup, but those guys can still hit too. So it's kind of been fun to watch them put that together. But to be honest, Chris, pretty consistent when it comes to playing time. They've moved people around a little bit, and they still do that. But a lot of the starters have started a lot of the games. A lot of those rotational players have been the same, and more importantly, they've been pretty productive from start to finish, no matter who's been in there.
All right, our last baseball question, it kind of transitions us into another sport. Although we've taken up most of our podcast time with baseball today.
Hmm.
Um, Montana Ear, who loses more games, 2025 WVU baseball or 2025 WVU football?
The fact that we devoted like 40 minutes to this probably means baseball, right? It's just the law of averages. And plus, they've already lost. If Rich is going to go undefeated, then they already have the answer to the question, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That makes it easy.
Mhm.
But all right, let's say 6-6. I mean, because even if it's 6-6 in football, or even 5-7, like asking West Virginia, I know, hey, they've already gone 30-4. How hard can it be to, finish out the season? It's a lot of baseball left. And then you got to get to the Big 12 championship. Then you got to get to um the College World or the NCAA the tournament and College World Series, hopefully. At some point, unless they win the national championship, they're going to lose at least a couple more games. So that's six, a couple more in there, eight. I hate to poo poo the parade, but yeah, baseball's still going to lose more than the football team,
Hmm.
or at least football fans hope so.
What if football never won to go 0 and 12? Then who wins? Like who has more losses there? West Virginia's 12 or the win list? Excuse me, football's 12 losses or baseball's 8 loss finish in the rest of the season here.
So there's 19 regular season games left,
The 8 and 11. Hmm.
and then you get to the Big 12 championship, and then the postseason after that. So
They're probably going to
close.
lose 9 games somewhere. Is what you're
Yeah.
saying?
I
Hmm.
don't know about
That's a
nine.
tough
Nine's
bet.
strong.
That's a
Nine's
tough
a
bet.
lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I
But
might bet against that actually.
yeah, Mike, people are going to be disappointed to hear that you're predicting 0-12 this season. This
Hmm.
is not
Huge
great.
NIL scandal forthcoming. Don't know if anybody knows that, but they're gonna have to forfeit all their games.
WV Nomad 7, switching to football. How many starter roles do you feel the staff are looking to fill on the football team from the spring portal?
So I tried this exercise in my head by going through position by position, and I was like, Mike, that's silly. Ask the opposite now. So I'm gonna walk in the exit. What positions are safe is what I would think. So that's a much easier way for me to look at this. Like, what position are they saying we don't need that in the portal? Uh, Quarterback, running back. Let's go to defense. Probably your corners and safeties. I think that they have that covered. I just can't see them devoting more resources to corner and safety, except that, Chris, they've lost so many defensive backs. They're going to need depth. I'm not sure
I
they're
was
going
gonna say,
starting. Not sure they're going
okay.
fishing
I
for
was gonna say
starters there.
Rodriguez said they might take six more, which they turned a lot of heads a month
Well,
ago, and now not so much.
I hope not, because then what have they been doing, right?
Yeah.
That would be a really weird turnover number there. So if we're looking for starting spots, most of the offense and then most of the defense, I think that they would be looking for some that they can. They can't add starters all there, so you have to prioritize them. But when I was thinking of this, what ones would they not be in the market for? Quarterback, they just don't want to mess with that, I think. Running back, they have Jaheim White. I would think everybody else on offense, they would take somebody. The exceptions, I think they feel pretty good about Cam Vaughn. They were quietly optimistic about that, and he had a good game, a good play in the game, the showcase. And then he was off the field, like, hey, don't do that. And then defensively, you're just going to need people on the line, except maybe Jamori Robinson. Linebacker, I would think, would be a place they'd look at for help. And then I guess if they found a guy in the secondary, sure, but I think they have starters in the secondary. They would just look for depth there. I'm not sure they're going fishing for starters in the secondary. Everywhere else, I think that they would be interested, which is crazy.
Uh, WV Flyer. What position will WVU football spend the most NIL money acquiring in this round of the portal?
So on a single position, I would think receiver.
Ooh.
Collectively, offensive line.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. Okay, I see what you're doing there. I was like, oh man. But yeah, for a room, I agree. Offensive line. That's what I was thinking was offensive line was going to be my answer as well. So you're saying,
Hmm.
I see what you're saying. So if they went and got one individual player, the highest, because yeah, I mean, quarterback's going to be the highest in those situations. Edge rusher might be the
Hmm.
next highest, and I think they're pretty good or feel comfortable with well, or they've already spent their edge rusher budget there, if you will. Um, Offensive tackle, I don't know if they're going to be able to spend the money needed to be spent to get the top dogs there. So yeah, wide receiver might be the next biggest spend for one individual player. But yeah, you and I are in the same boat here
Scary.
for the position group. Got to be offensive line, which yes, I agree. That is scary as well. Um, Second question for WV Flyer: is the Alabama series still happening, Mike?
I've not heard anything about that since the initial hissy fit about it. So I don't again, it would cost West Virginia money to get out of it. Like they're not gonna like Alabama has no need to buy them out right now. So that's not going to happen. And West Virginia would be hurting itself to buy that game out. And again, I don't think this coach is pushing to get rid of that one there. I think if you told Rich Rodriguez that he has a chance to play a home game and a road game against Alabama, however that team is going to look, he'd be like, all right, let's do that. Wait, we're talking about taking this off the schedule? What? It wouldn't make sense to him. I don't think they're just different guys in charge of the program. If Alabama comes around and says, and we've been over this, we have an extra SEC game we have to play. We got to knock somebody off the schedule. Would you mind taking a check? West Virginia would certainly take that check. It doesn't necessarily happen that way because the SEC hasn't gone to the extra conference game yet, and it's a matter of whether that extra conference game is at home or away and how that matches up with West Virginia because I forget the opponent, but the one year they play West Virginia, Alabama plays Florida State, I think, and the other year they play West Virginia, they play I want to say Louisville, I'm not sure, but it's a Power 5 program, and if they're getting an extra home game, they can get rid of a home game against West Virginia. So like that balance matters as to what year they would play the extra that uneven conference game. Oh, we're on the road once more than expected. We need a home game. Let's get rid of West Virginia. Vice versa. Would it match up on the new unbalanced SEC schedule, which by the way hasn't happened yet.
All right, let's get in at least one, maybe two basketball questions before we wrap up here. We don't need people complaining that we don't have basketball coverage either. So, WVU Browns asks, how much pressure do you think is on Hodge to win in year one, given that he wasn't the popular name to hire with fans and donors, supposedly, and that it's been a rough couple years for the program? Will there be more pressure to see results quickly, or will the donors continue to trust Baker's track record with hiring coaches?
Are we doing a year zero thing here? It's like a gag on me.
I was just,
uh,
I mean, the answer is no, because right, like, I mean, was there any spot worse than what the Freeze came into last year, where the team had won 9 games the year before, and he had one player that he intended to redshirt returning in Ofri Nave? Like, he was literally starting from scratch. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I think the expect and it should have been an NCAA tournament team. So yeah, got to win year one, right?
yeah. I mean, fans don't have patience, and money never did. So when you've got fans who saw this happen last year, they're going to want to go. Especially, and whether you like this hire or you're suspicious, you want results. You want this hire to work because you like the guy, or you want this hire to work because you don't want to be right and be like, this wasn't the pick. And you can't tout ability to flip over the roster, the junior college experience, the fact that defense travels and they get like a certain type of player who will buy into that defense. All that stuff could be and likely is true, Chris. I'm not using that as a negative to undercut the guy, but you can't promote that stuff and then say, well, it doesn't really count this first year. It doesn't work like that anymore. The game has totally changed. You have to win right away. Otherwise, someone else is going to be talking a little bit louder than they were before and trying to be a little bit more influential than they were before. And you're talking somebody out of a position. You're talking up somebody who can come in and get the job done. You're talking about not giving money. You're talking about withdrawing money, like all that stuff. Just you've got a lot of voices in the room now that you never had before, and that's the tricky part of this. It maybe not like ever before, but louder than before, maybe more influential than before. It's because money is so important. The answer is yeah, there's pressure. Well, however you want to define it, they'll say, "Oh, I don't feel any pressure. It's just me doing my job." How about this? There's an urgency or an expectation to be successful, if not at or above the level that just happened here, then in the neighborhood.
Let's see. Next question. This is a good one because I think it's been discussed a lot or asked about a lot. We've kind of addressed it. I mean, we have addressed it, answered on the board. I think you might have written a story about it too early on. WV No Bad 7. Do we have an idea on how much NIL or other funds for the players are available? If so, what percentage? I think this is the part I was really focused on. What percentage of that would you allocate towards additions to the roster?
So my understanding was that by going around, some people were kind of hacked off about the way DeVries left and whatever NIL stuff did or didn't happen there. Some people liked Hodge and said, I'm in. But even before Hodge was hired, the word going around the search was that West Virginia was going to be right around 5 million in NIL. I think that's up significantly from last year. It could be close to double. It could be 1.5 million more. Those numbers are going to vary, and they'll never be honest about this. So, not with us at least. But let's just say it's 5 million, and it's a good increase. You're probably looking around 3.5 million for revenue sharing too. That's $8.5 million to spend on your roster. You think that's good? You're going to see teams chunking off half of that to a player. You're going to see, I would say half the Big Ten, excuse me, half the Big 12 is probably at or above that 8.5 million number. Just maybe just an NIL alone. Never mind the revenue sharing. So is it eight or better than that? Are there 8 teams better than that? I'm not sure, but it's going to be in that vicinity. And again, if you look at some of the schools in the Big 12, like BYU might surprise you, might not anymore, but that's a big NIL school. Texas Tech, big NIL school. Kansas, big NIL school. Kansas State just proved they can be a big NIL school. There's a lot of schools that can spend money on NIL. Um,
What did Toppin get? Was it 4 million? Was that what the
just to
rumor was?
stay, just to
Just to
stay.
stay. Yeah.
Yeah, and like again, BYU paying $3.5 million to a kid who signed for 1 million like days earlier at Baylor. I mean, not like $1 more, but like three times the money he had just signed for. That's crazy. What are we doing here, right? So there's those things you have to think about, and then I don't think West Virginia has to worry about that stuff there. Like 5 million should be good enough for them to do it. How are they going to split it up, Chris? Okay, probably going to throw a lot at Honor Huff just because that was the big fish they got in right there. Not the full allotment. I've heard the number. I've shared the number on our sites and stories I've written, and that's a big chunk of what they're going to do. If it's 5 million, that's a big chunk of it. But they still have most of it left. Can they do that? Can they fill out a roster of, let's see, you're thinking 15 people? I'm not. I'm thinking 9. They'll have 15 people, but as far as like pieces of that NIL pie, um, 7 or 8 other people probably would get a chunk of that. And then you're talking about guys who can just use the revenue sharing money and all that. Like there's a way you can split it up too, but look at the way Hodge rolls. He plays 8, maybe 9 people. He's not in a playing freshman historically. A lot of minutes for the people he trusts the most. And if you're just going to put trust into the new word, which would be payment, the people he pays the most, it's going to be 8, 9 people. You need depth. I get that. You need guys who can fill in or guys who can get better, but you'll see a kid redshirt this year probably. That might not happen very often. You'll see people who come in and maybe are just practice players or developmental players. How they get to 15, how a lot of teams get to 15 is going to be unusual. You don't need to pay NIL to 15 players. You don't like that. West Virginia tried that a couple years ago when they were adding like Noah Farrakhan late in the season or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to have 13 on scholarship. We're going to have NIL scholarships for 2 more." I don't know if there's a place for that, and I don't know if that's the wisest thing. Like, would you rather divide your money by 8 or 9 people, or would you rather divide your money by 15? Obvious answer.
Yeah. I think that's the way. I don't want to say the only way, but that is the way, best way for West Virginia to compete right now as far as acquiring talent in the world of college basketball. Because you're like the BYUs, if they have let's say they have try to fill up 15 spots and they spend 15 million, then oh, their average is 1 million. Well, if West Virginia only has 8 million, well, okay, they'll try to fill 8 spots and spend 1 million a player or something like that. And then just be like, well, if we're relying on our ninth, 10th, 11th guy, you're screwed anyway. So you might as well just go for it with the 8, like you were talking about there, and try to divide your salary pool, if you will, into just 8 players instead of a full roster. Um, all right, Mike, I think that's going to wrap it up for us because we're going to have to get off here. We're going to have to record 2 more 3-minute videos that we'll put out on Wednesday and Friday. That'll address 2 other questions from the mailbag. Everything else I will address in a written format that will go up, I assume, on Tuesday, unless everything goes crazy with more transfers, more breaking news. Transfer portal officially opens for football on Wednesday. There might be a surprise or two here, but a lot of the stuff that's already happened is already out there as far as leaving the program. I think you'll see on Wednesday some news start happening about guys coming into the program. Maybe not committing on the spot, but getting offers. I don't think you're going to see guys claiming offers before the portal opens because that would be tampering, and West Virginia does not do that, right? Mike, say
I
right.
don't want to answer that. You hope they are,
So,
right?
yeah, so don't expect anybody to claim a West Virginia offer until they are officially in the portal, which is 95% of the people will be on Wednesday. Um, so news will be coming hot and heavy starting Wednesday. I will try to get this out on Tuesday unless something else comes up before that. Mike, what do you got coming up this week?
There's a baseball news conference today, Chris.
What?
Yes.
Well, I hope some other outlets cover it so that people can get their
We'll
coverage.
have that. And then listen, like the way the roster's coming together, this is kind of fun to see what Hodge is doing. Like we just did this last year with DeVries, and I think that's given us some insight here. Like he's got key pieces of his staff. Like it's not a secret now, but Jace Hurl and Phil Forte are definitely on the staff. I think they've even changed their Twitter bios at this point, but they've been working. So he's got like his central nervous system for his coaching staff. He's probably built out a little bit with some support staff and recruiting and all that. We just haven't seen or heard that yet. Um, and then how they built the roster is interesting too. Do you start with your big piece and add around him, or do you start with little pieces and add the big piece because he's convinced he can win this team? Probably did the latter. I mean, Honor Huff's the big one right now. If he was the first one, maybe people come in, but maybe it's hard to land him until he sees who else on the roster. So you get a 7 footer, you get like a really freaky rim runner in Lorient. You talk to some other people that he knows and likes, and all of a sudden, all right, I'll sign there because I can throw lobs at him. I can work around his screens. We're gonna be big. We can dash all that. I don't know. I wonder if he's doing that. Then again, he's getting guys who play a lot of basketball and won, and that's what I was told was his preference when I visited people around him up at Indianapolis for the NIT. And so far, so good. Like everybody, we're not talking like NCAA champions or Elite Eight teams, but guys who won a lot of games at schools either hadn't done it or where it's not as easy to win. And there are a reason why, because they played a role. Like um, the kid from Troy, Jackson Fields, not a super player. He'll fit in nicely, I think, a lot of systems, but part of a winner because he did his role and he was good at it. He was not looking to be like a 35-minute, 20 point per game guy. Wants to win and wants to play, and he knows probably what his ceiling is and all that stuff. But he fits here now, so he's good. That's a good part, and they got that one crossed off. So kind of fun to see how he's doing that. So maybe we'll take a look at that. Maybe we'll have some more intel as some other pieces fall in, because I think that's going to happen pretty soon now too. The dead period is over. There are guys on campus over the weekend visiting. Notable names, Chris. We're allowed to say these out
Mhm.
loud.
Yeah, I mean, they've already been on the board, but I think we could talk about them here. Yeah, go ahead.
Hawthorne.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Bring him back. I mean, he was the only one of the 3 high school commits that once they opened up their letter of and got released from their letter of intent was like, hey, this is a possibility that I might still end up at West Virginia. Now, granted, of course, was it Kentucky and a couple other big
that?
schools are like, oh, you vaulted up the rankings. Well, maybe we should show interest in you now. Which I know West Virginia fans are like, hey, what? You're hoping that a player sees through that, but it is what it is. He's going to get the interest. He's earned it. And now West Virginia's got to win this battle again.
Mhm. Wes
Mike,
Enos
I
is the
like I
guy.
like what they've done on the portal, by the way, so far. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to further extend this podcast, but they got the big time guard who can play defense, who can shoot threes. Love it. Big fan. And then you're getting pieces that are just, hey, here's a 6'7" wing. Here's a 6'9" wing. Here's another 6'9" wing. Like kind of guys that can fill multiple roles, whether it's like you view them as like a 3 or a 4. They can switch on defense. They can do all this kind of stuff. So and you get your 7-foot big man. I'm not expecting him to play 25 to 30 minutes a game, but you need to have that guy in case you come up against an opponent that requires that guy. So you give him a few minutes, use him for a few mismatches, use him when you got the matchup that you need him for, and then you fill in with all these 6'9" bigs and wings and long and lengthy. I like it.
And Division II Lincoln Memorial star Wes Ennis, I think it's Ennis, Wes Ennis, one of the finalists for Players of the Year in Division II. I would say some people were kind of like surprised to learn. I mean, not Ross Hodge and all them, but like he was here on campus,
Yeah.
on his
And we
OBs.
reported about him last week. Like, hey, we'll keep an eye on this guy. Like, West Virginia's in touch. They're interested. And here he is.
Iowa's in the running there too, Chris. Do we
Mm,
get Iowa, West Virginia just for a non-conference game? I feel like we have to at this point, just because the fans, we know each other so well, right?
yeah.
Watch that one there. I think people were surprised by that one because you brought in a high-scoring guard, and probably for a purpose. Huff was first preferred, right? Would somebody else who had a lot of interest because he was so good at Division II? I understand it's not Division I, but people are still interested in him because his game may translate. Like he's got a good body, he's a good shooter. Would fit into a system where he can be a shooter. Well, would he want to go to West Virginia if there's only going to be so many shots available? Well, he took the trip. I'm sure he's not trying to waste his time. He only gets so many OBs, and I don't know how many people even take all of them anymore. So um, that was interesting. We'll see where that goes. Maybe he'll debrief some people and we'll have an idea before too long.
Well, time to wrap it up then.
Lots happening. Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you next time.